Welcome to our first acoustic guitar looper pedal jam. Now this is in the key of C major, and throughout this series we are going to be doing looper jams in all 12 keys, mainly sticking to the major versions of those keys, so C major, C sharp major, D sharp major, etc. We'll be covering a little bit on the minors, but mainly sticking to major. And we're mainly sticking to this major pop song or acoustic folk song sound rather than blues. It's a huge thing for a lot of people to be able to play kind of 12-bar blues and do that kind of style, but that's not what we're focusing on in this series. It's much more the pop song major sound and what we can add to that, especially when we're looking at using a looper pedal. But for all 12 jams, there will also be an audio track directly under this video that you can download and you can play over this jam track that literally I'm making on my looper pedal. So there'll be a recording of that in a loop for 3 minutes or so, and you can practice all the lead guitar stuff that we're focusing on here. But if you have a looper pedal, start out with this kind of thing. It will be so good for you. And if you're a total beginner, you can even play along to this whole thing and just strum a C chord. What we're basically recreating with a looper pedal here is this idea of playing a C major chord with the descending root notes, which is a huge part of how the more musical chord progressions are actually written. What the songwriter's thinking of when they're writing the chord progression is not C chord, F chord, G chord, etc. They don't think like that. They think of single notes within that chord, and this is a great way around that. So even if all you can play is a C chord, all we'd need to do, maybe just 1, 2, 3, 4, and get that loop in there. So this will be a perfect starting point. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Get that C chord looping. And then descending root note, C major scale, all the way down to F, and then back to the G. So it's 2 Fs. Now I wasn't aware I was recording there, but what I can do is hold down my looper pedal, and I've just got rid of that last loop, okay? Whenever red light's on, we're recording. So all I'm going to play now though is the same thing I just did. I'll record that in, and then we've got that, and it's like we've got the feeling of changing chords because of this change in bass note. So let's try this. And of course the rest of the major scale. Will also work, and that is just using things that were just covered in my beginner's course. If you can add more strumming to it, great. The recommended strumming pattern I'm doing here is just down, down, up. Especially just sticking to really the middle 4 strings, keeping our arm very still and just doing this with the wrist, which turns that into, okay? And let those up strums really hit the thinner strings, so down, down, up, and we get a really lovely sound. So middle 4 strings with the down, thinner strings with the up. Let's add that as a new loop, okay? So I've cleared the looper pedal, and I'm going to play this first and then tap for 2 bars. I'm going to let the loop go for 2 bars. There's my loop, same bass line again. And there's our loop, and it's like we've got, you know, a more complex part than perhaps the sum of its parts. over that I was playing the C major pentatonic scale. That's a bit of an overview there. Again, what the looper pedal's enabling us to do is to get this kind of effect just being able to play a C chord. Now, if we can, let's play the C chord for 1 bar and then the F chord for 1 bar. So this is... So it's literally C to an F major 7. We don't even need a bar chord. Clear the looper. Let's record that in. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my loop. When it goes around again, bass line. And there's our loop. Now we can hear that little chaka from the strumming hand. Let's accentuate that now by doing a total mute with this left hand. We're just muting all the strings. And we're just going to do that. This is going to happen on beats 2 and 4, which is where the snare drum happens. That's where the snare drum occurs in a drum beat, the most important beats. Here we go, the next time round. There we go. Now I think I can do that better. So I'm going to clear the last one, and we can only clear that last one that we've recorded, but we can clear it so we can try again. And let's just try and get it even better. Here we go. I'm happy with that one. So what we need to know now is that those 2 chords, C, F, and then the hint of a G because of the G root note there, are all in the key of C, and these, every time we change the bass notes, we're essentially changing the name of the chord, but we don't need to think about that. These are all just, we're just playing the C major scale, and therefore we just think key of C, key of C. What is going to work over the top of chords in the key of C major? The C major scale. All the notes in every chord are just the C major scale. Now we could play the C major scale in open position, but on guitar, that's quite difficult to do, and also it's important to know which notes to stay on and to emphasize when we start improvising, when we start coming up with our own little melodies. So it can be a much safer starting point to do this with the major pentatonic. And major pentatonic is often quite difficult for some people, but there's a really easy way to make sure that it's always going to sound right. And what we need to know is the C major pentatonic is the same notes as the A minor pentatonic. So when you have, I can guarantee you've played this before, 5th fret to 8th fret, 5th fret to 7th fret, 5-7, 5-7, 5-8, 5-8, like the one everyone plays as their first scale. The major pentatonic is those same notes, the C major pentatonic, but the root note, rather than being A, is on C, so the root note's moved one, then the next note in the scale. So we would start C major pentatonic from that little finger and go all the way up to the top. We'd start on the 8th fret, which is C, play all the same notes you know and love, the most overplayed set of notes ever on guitar, electric or acoustic. But importantly, when we're creating melodies and playing anything, improvisation, lead guitar in the key of C major, we've got to emphasize this C note, which means we've got to stay on it. We've got to start our melodies or that be the most prominent note that we play. So when I started this, obviously that C note's lasting longer than these two notes. Now if that's a blues lick in the key of A minor, that's what we'd be playing, and that would emphasize in... Suddenly we're in a blues context. For major, we need to emphasize the C. And if, for those of you that can play bar chords and have done this before, any of the chord tones that make that C major, so C, E, or G, anywhere on the guitar at all, and a bit of knowledge of the cage system can really help with that. But to keep it simple, just think of these three notes of your C major bar chord. We don't even have to bar, we just need to visualize. These are the safe notes, not the A, because we're in the C major pentatonic. That is a nice way to emphasize that. That was the lick I chose. And then 5, 8, 5, 7. We can do the second note, so pick. We can do the second note with a hammer on, and then pick again, or pick every note. Either way, that works beautiful over this rhythm part. Because those chords are saying C major, this is the C major pentatonic, but even more important than that, I'm staying on that C note, and then other notes, the E note and the G note, which are all part of that C chord, I'm staying on those notes or emphasizing them in the lead part as well. So that's what makes the harmony there. So all those things, which are diatonic chords, chords in a key, in this case just C, F and G, the 1, 4, 5 in that key, and then knowing the major scale or the major pentatonic scale over the top of that, and mainly emphasizing the notes of the first chord of the C chord in this case, are the things to keep in mind when we're jamming in the major keys, especially when we're jamming on acoustic guitar. Because we're not thinking blues in this context, we are thinking this major key sound. Hope that helps. Whatever level you're at the moment, hopefully you can grab onto one or two things there, even if it's just the rhythm part of it. And I wish you all the best with recreating that loop or jamming along to that drum track, which you can do right now.